Language variation. There are many influences across the country that determine language variation. These include age, sexuality, gender, class, ethnicity, criminality, occupation, geography, and hobbies. These influence the various forms of language, such as grammar, lexis, phonology, semantics, and orthography. There are two main attitudes toward language variation, namely descriptivism and prescriptivism. Descriptivism is an objective view that describes the differences between accents and dialects and understands its use in its context. Prescriptivism, however, sees the variations as degrading to the language, aims to control future changes, and states that we should all speak in standard English with received pronunciation, as this is a prestigious and high-status accent. An aspect that has created huge debate is the theme of gender and whether there are differences between male and female speech. The leading theorists in this field are Pamela Fishman, Dale Spender, Robin Lakoff, Deborah Tannen, and Deborah Cameron. Fishman and Spender were researching in the 1970s and noticed that men talk twice as much as women in mixed-sex conversations, which goes against the stereotype of women talking more than men. This is the dominance model. In order for men to assert their status, they will try to dominate the conversation. Deborah Tannen supported the view of different male and female speech, but based it on inherent differences both in gender and society. Her difference model states that men and women use language for different things, namely sympathy versus problem solving, rapport versus report, listening versus lecturing, private versus public, connections versus status, supportive versus oppositional, and intimacy versus independence. Her views on female language are supported by Robin Lakoff, who suggested, with the deficit model, that due to the long history of patriarchal rule, women's language has changed to reflect their lower status in society. Therefore, their language will be more emotive and descriptive, as opposed to declarative or commanding. Pamela Fishman further researched into male and female social interactions through the 1970s to the 1990s. She discovered that on average, women ask 3 times as many questions as men. They make more supportive acts of back-channel behavior, such as nodding, supportive noises, and encouraging actions. They use more attention getters, like, "Do you know what?" And their topic initiations were generally ignored as opposed to the men's ones, which were always taken and consequently supported by the women. Occupation. A person's job has a huge influence on the language they will use. Primarily, a job will bring you into contact with those you would not otherwise have communicated with. Furthermore, a vocation will often have its own lexicon, i.e. set of words, such as the medical career will have technical words like chromosome and biparental, and euphemisms such as code brown and wrinkly, some of which have become commonly used. Also, a job is usually something you will want to do, therefore it will feed your own sense of identity and broaden your idiolect. An anti-language that has become common use is leet. This originated on the bulletin boards and soon spread to the internet, where it gained popularity and use. It has its own lexis, orthography, and grammatical structure, and is predominantly written. The nature of an anti-language is to prevent non-users from understanding it, such as Polari, which will be discussed later. Leet was taken up by computer hackers who, wanting to avoid detection, would send their messages in Leet to bypass the security checks for known words, and became a covertly prestigious cryptolect, in other words, a secret language. With the growth of the internet and introduction of texting, Leet has been adopted by many of the younger generations, for example, the use of LOL, Ruffle, Mate, See You, See Ya, etc. Leet has also taken the suffix from words like breakage and applied them to general nouns, such as eatage, foodage, even leetage, to describe a particularly skillful person or act. The phonetic spelling of hacks has given rise to hacks and hacksaw as the agent noun. An anti-language retains the phonetic elements of the lexicon. For example, see you later would still be pronounced the same, spelt as see you later. The creation of alphanumeric substitutes for letters also retains a similarity to the origin, such as a 4 looking like an A, a 3 an E, a 0 and O, and so on, including line-line for an H. Leet has created new words such as noob, derived from newbie, meaning a new person, and woot to mean happy, which was later titled the most popular word of 2007 by US Merriam-Webster Dictionary. An aspect of an anti-language is the resurfacing of archaic terms to add to its identity. For example, Leet uses apostrophe D to indicate the past tense, a method that was popular in Shakespearean time. Immigration from countries such as Jamaica, India, and Africa have given rise to many pidgins and creoles. The word pidgin itself comes from the Chinese pronunciation of business. Pidgins are sociolects that form from a meeting between two languages, taking the stronger one, i.e. English, as the lexifier, and blending it with the other. Creoles grow from pidgins as they develop, generally used by native-speaking second or third generation, and take more from the lexifier. A leading linguist in London Jamaican is Mark Seba. He states that the dialect arose from Jamaican settlers and developed into what we hear today through the second and third generations. The lexis and grammar are a mix of Cockney, Caribbean Creoles, and Standard English, with Caribbean being the strongest influence, such as with being pronounced wid. Sue Fox researched into the multi-ethnic youth dialects of London, grouping them under the umbrella of multicultural London English. By its nature, it's highly influenced by the various creoles and cultures that make up the London population. She discovered that it was spoken by both white, black, and Asian ethnicities alike, not just restricted to settlers. Therefore, the dialects are a symbol of a society of young people who share the same experiences of growing up in London, regardless of their ethnicity. Furthermore, similar dialects have sprung up around Bristol and Birmingham, perhaps suggesting that they are a national dialect for young people growing up in industrial cities. As it is influenced by many different factors, MLE has a large number of slang terms, such as blood, meaning friend, perhaps from blood brother, nang, meaning good, which is an Australian and Indian term, duppy, meaning to kill or attack, originating from the Jamaican patois for ghost, and lastly grime, to describe a genre of music fitting to the dialect. Paul Kurzweil's research suggests that another aspect of MLE's multi-directional influences is that MLE frequently changes and evolves. MLE has also been famously satirized by Sacha Baron Cohen as LEG. In the next video, I shall be talking about sexuality and regional dialect, and their influences on language variation. Thank you for watching. You've been listening to a Study Guides production.